Probably many of you are familiar with the name Elie Wiesel. He is a survivor of the Holocaust in World War II, and after the war, he was very energetic in tracking down some of the war criminals who were responsible for the massacre of so many millions of the Jewish people. He's also a famous author and is frequently quoted. I'd like you to look at one of his quotes. Speaking from his experience in the Holocaust, Elie Wiesel says, "We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." This Sunday's readings say that if we see evil, we are to react to it. We can't just remain silent spectators. In the first reading, God tells Ezekiel that he is to be like a watchman who sounds the alarm when danger approaches. He must speak out to dissuade the wicked man from his evil ways. Then, in the Gospel, Jesus instructs the disciples how to respond to someone who sins against them. They are to confront the evildoer and not remain silent. Jesus himself did not remain silent in the face of wrongdoing. Probably the greatest example of that is the cleansing of the temple. Jesus saw all of the merchants, the buyers and the sellers of animals in the temple, and he became angry at how they were profaning the temple, and he drove them out. And then we look at ourselves. If we say nothing when we or others are treated unjustly, then we're really giving consent to that bad behavior. Jesus would not have told us in the gospel how to deal with evil if he didn't want us to speak up. Unfortunately, there are a lot of sinful situations and really evil people in the world today. We would be blind not to see all of the corruption, the crime, the racism and discrimination, the injustice, the abuse, the immorality, the devaluing of human life, and so many other evils. And as followers of Christ, we're to sound the alarm like Ezekiel. We are to confront those who sin and not just stand by silently and watch as evil spreads through the world. We are now celebrating what's called the season of creation. The Orthodox Church started celebrating this quite a few years ago, and then not too long ago, the evangelical Christian churches began to celebrate the season of creation. And Pope Francis, after he became Pope, said that we too would celebrate this season starting on September 1st. It's in that season we are called to hear God speaking to us as he did to Ezekiel, listening to what he tells us about being responsible to each other. That's certainly true in connection with creation and with the environment, that we are responsible for each other. We are interdependent. Pope Francis keeps saying again and again how all of creation, how we as humanity and the created world and how God, we're all connected, we're interdependent. Pope Francis says in this season of creation that we have to listen to God speaking to us in the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. What he means by the cry of the earth is the strong message that's being given to us increasingly and in ever stronger terms by the powerful storms, the wildfires, the melting ice, the rising seas, the droughts and the floods, the pollution of the air and the water, the loss of biodiversity, all of those evils that we are experiencing in the environment, that is the cry of the earth speaking to us. And then the cry of the poor. Unfortunately, all of those things spoken of in the cry of the earth, they affect and hurt the poor first and most of all. It's hunger and malnutrition and homelessness and ill health and disease. It's abuse and exploitation. It's migration and the plight of refugees. It's violence. It's ecological degradation. That's the cry of the poor. They are experiencing all those things because of what we have done to creation. So then, what is our response? First, we have to educate and warn ourselves and each other about these ecological crises, the environmental crises that are facing us. And really, they're threatening life as we know it. Secondly, we have to experience a conversion in our own lives, in our ways of thinking, in our ways of acting and living. We have to change our lifestyle. Third, we have to network. We have to identify other groups and communities, NGOs, parishes, churches, movements, anyone with whom we can work to help us to overcome the evils that are affecting creation. Finally, we have to make a plan for ourselves, each of us. What are we going to do? To whom do I speak? What do I say to respond to God's prophetic word that's coming to me in the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor? Again, creation, humanity, we are connected. We're interdependent. And we have to include God in that also. We cannot say that we love God if we do not love our neighbor. Jesus made that abundantly clear. But we cannot say that we love our neighbor if we do not care for the air, the water, the land, the web of life that keeps us together and keeps us alive. We have to demonstrate that we really care for God's gift of creation. The challenge for us is, how do we express this love for creation in our families, in our parishes, in our schools, in different organizations, in our workplaces? Jesus lays out a way in the gospel today for addressing the evils of the world. He says, speak respectfully to those who need to hear a different truth. Invite conversation gently but persistently. He says, don't give up. There will be people who will not listen to us, but the issues are too important for us not to say anything. We need to keep speaking and working to bring about a real conversion in our awareness and in our care for creation. And then that way, we really show our love for God, our love for our neighbor, our love for the environment, and all of them need to be loved by all of us.